putting this together, I got an email from Ed, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and he outlined the People's Veto Alliance. I said, oh, son of a gun. That's how I found out about it. And so one of my good friends asked me, well, how come he came up with this? And I thought that he may have been stuck in his house for a couple of days with the snowstorm and decided that this is what he was going to do. But Ed is, as he said, he edits our newsletter. He is one of those people who goes over the internet with a fine-tooth comb and comes up with all kinds of good things that puts in our newsletter that makes people who say to me, wow, you did a great job. Oh yeah, it's true. And anyways, they recently, obviously, as we all understand, the Affordable Care Act was passed March last year and signed by President Obama. And immediately, some 20 states decided that they thought it was unconstitutional and challenged it, and two particular courts, district courts, federal district courts, one in Michigan, and I think the other one was in Virginia. And the first two district courts said it was constitutional, nothing wrong with it. Well, that wasn't good enough, obviously, for the people who want to make sure that it was bad. So they filed the bigger court, or a bigger system into the Florida District Court, where they found a very conservative judge, by the way, who was retired, but he still sits on the bench. And they figured that they could get a real good opinion from him. In the meantime, they also filed another one again in a different federal district court in Virginia, also a conservative type of judge. And those two judges found it unconstitutional. The one in Florida found it totally unconstitutional for reasons that most people can't understand what he's talking about. But in any case, as you know, the federal court system, you bring a case to the federal court, the district court will make an opinion. If you don't appeal it, that's the opinion. These cases will be appealed to the Appeals Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals, in the various, and I think that they've already been appealed to the 11th District Court of Appeals. And eventually they'll make a decision, and probably if that's good or not good, however, that will be appealed eventually to the Supreme Court of the United States. So that's where this whole case is going. It may take, well, it may take 2014 or maybe 2015 or 2016 by the time this whole thing is done. In the meantime, the Affordable Care Act is the law of the land, and it's something we have to pay attention to. Going back to the length of time it takes to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, in 2000, the Maine legislature passed the Maine RX law, prescription drug law. And what we said then, that any prescription that was sold, or was going to be sold, had to be regulated by the state. Of course, the pharmaceutical companies took us to court. We ended up in the Supreme Court of the United States from 2000 until 2003. It took us 3 years to get there. And their final decision didn't really come down until about 2004. It was in favor of the state of Maine. And we now have the Maine, what we call Maine RX Plus. Not exactly the way it was written in the legislature, but it's working. And that's how the system will go. So after the cases were in fact the Affordable Care Act were put together and found to be unconstitutional or constitutional, however you want it to, it's a 2-2 score at the present time. People in the state of Maine started asking, where does Maine stand in dealing with the new act, the new Affordable Care Act? Now, people are concerned with the lower health care costs and improving health care quality in our state, and are now asking this question. Well, the biggest question part of it is, what's Governor Page talking about? What's he doing? After the Florida decision was made, he applauded that, and he and the Attorney General of our state responded by adding their voice to the repeal, wanting it thrown out. So I guess that's what he's talking about. But he did, when he made that statement, he declared that what Maine needs is a comprehensive health care system in order to lower Maine's high cost of health care. When he said that, I said, gee, maybe he's talking about single payer. I don't think so. In 2010, after the ACA was signed into law by President Obama, and there are 3 committees in Maine: the Advisory Council on Health Systems Development, which was originally part of the Durgo Health and Durgo Health was one. Well, how are you?
Yeah, sure, come on and take up these chairs.
Paul Gilbert, one of our legislators.
There's 3 chairs here. There's a 4th chair over there. Anybody?
Yeah, the Advisory Council of Health System Development was formed when Durgo Health became law in our state. And its original responsibility was to establish a state health plan, which it has. And it's also done some oversight, advisory oversight for the certificate of need system, which hospitals need to get in order to build something. Most recently, our responsibilities were upgraded by the legislature when they told us they needed to have somebody advise them on health care reform, payment reform. How can we lower the cost of health care in the state? And not only did they ask us to do that, that was put in the form of a law, and it was signed by Governor Baldacci. So now the Advisory Council of Health System Development are there by state statute. It's a responsibility of the state to have that advisory council keep on going. In addition to the advisory council, Governor Baldacci at the time issued an executive order saying all to his department heads that he wanted them all to get involved with putting the advisory council, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act together, and he called them their steering committee, and they went through the process. In addition, the 124th legislature had a legislative committee that went in and did the same process of investigating the ACA and how to implement it. So those 3 committees worked together over a period from April of 2010 until sometime in November, and we produced 2 in-depth reports that went to Governor LePage and the 125th legislature. And those reports were put together to make recommendations for implementing the ACA. And what the state of Maine has to do, or should have to do, to get involved, because we have to organize what's going to be called a health exchange, where people will go to buy their health insurance. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, gives us the opportunity, the tools that we need to implement certain things to help us lower the cost of health care and try pilot programs in different ways of how hospitals and doctors would charge us and how we would pay for health care. All of these things are part of the law, something that Governor LePage wants to repeal. But in any case, he can't repeal it, and neither can the Attorney General repeal it. It has to go to the Supreme Court of the United States. There is an LD 58 that's in our legislature this year that wants to make it illegal in the state of Maine for the Maine to get into the Affordable Care. Now, a state, you can't have a state law to nullify a federal law. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's right.
It does trump.
And LD 58 is on float, it hasn't been heard yet, and I don't know if it ever will, or they may hopefully decide that it's not necessary, but this is what they want to do. But if you think of it, if LD 58 did pass, 90 days after the legislature closes, and it would close in June, assuming it would close in June, 90 days after that, LD 58 would become law. Now,
and it would make it a criminal offense.
And it would make it a criminal offense for anybody in the state of Maine to get involved with the Affordable Care Act. Now, doctors who are now treating Medicare patients, who in this year in Medicare, benefits increase because you get your annual physical is for nothing. There are screenings for nothing, mammograms, cancer screenings, there were no more co-pays for that stuff. So what's a doctor to do if it's illegal? And it would just throw more junk into the whole thing. And I really think that it's a part of some people to say, let's get them to stop talking about healthcare and start and yelling and screaming about legal things that mean nothing, you know, and get us diverted from where we should be. Well, in any case, the Advisory Council for Health Systems Development is still in business. We'll be meeting on the 25th of this month. We so far have had no communications with the LePage administration. John Carlassi, when he was governor, had a person, Trish Riley, her name was, and she was his health director, health and financial systems director. And she was the person that really helped us put an awful lot of stuff together. Governor LePage doesn't have any such person at all. Mary Mayhew, who was just appointed to be the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services, is the closest thing he has to anybody that was ever working in the healthcare industry, and she worked for the hospitals. I think she's in a little over her head. I like the lady, I don't mean to say anything bad about her, but I think she's in a little over her head being the Commissioner of and that's where we're going.